producers, and they say the Carvers. Our nickname is actually the Von Trapp, after the Sound of Music. But I just want to share with you, first of all, a vision of mine that I had last year. I kind of look at our blank piece of paper at the beginning of the year and think about what I want to achieve for the year. And one of the things, about August time, I started to think, wouldn't it be nice if all of us could be on stage speaking together? And I just thought I'd start to visualise it. So the more I visualised it, the more I felt we were getting closer to it. And then it was about the time when we were in South Africa this year that I thought, do you know, I think we could do this. So I decided to write, unbeknown to the family, and wrote them into it and said, I'm going to send this in and see if we can speak. So it's a great pleasure to be here today and speak to you and tell you kind of our story and how we've evolved over the time I've been in the business. So I'd just like to say to Forever, thank you for that. Thank you for asking us to speak. Now, I just want to say I started in Forever back in 2002, and that seems so long ago now. But my husband had been contacted about this business many, many times, at least 2 or 3 times. But he wasn't interested in the business at all. But nobody asked me. Nobody referred to him and asked him to ask his wife. Big mistake. So when this friend of a friend just said, I didn't know this lady, and she just said, would you take a look at it? So I immediately said yes. Now my background was hairdressing, and this is all I'd done for many, many years since leaving school. But I had only 1 month off with each of our children. No such thing, because I ran my own business. No such thing as maternity leave. So I had 1 month off with each of our children and went back to work. So I'd worked really solidly for 24 years. I suppose you could call me a workaholic. Now I became really, really tired of the industry, and I felt like I absolutely had no time for me. Andrew worked away an awful lot, and I worked full time. When I was not working, I was taxiing the children to swimming, dancing, football, etc. And many mums in the audience can probably relate to that. So when I was approached about Forever, I thought, what if? What if what she was telling me was true? And so I jumped in. Initially, I worked Forever part-time around my very, very busy life. But when I first started, there was absolutely no social media, nothing like that to help us along the way. It was all picking the phones up. And I felt like picking the phone up was like a heavy brick. And I had to get used to picking that heavy brick up and talk to people. I remember pulling up in the car around the corner from the house on the way home one night, just so that I could make a few phone calls. I continued, because I knew that once I continued home, I'd be on demand by the children. So I built my business to supervisor, assistant manager, and manager. And we qualified for some fantastic rallies. One of the best places I've ever been to was Budapest. Had the most amazing time, and I've been twice with the company. You see, back then I had a really strong why. I wanted to be able to put my son through university and send my daughter to a top dance college, because that's what she loved. The cost of the course of the dance college was £60,000 over 3 years. And where was I going to get that extra money from? And also, to send my son through uni was going to be £12,000. So I got to manager, and this enabled me to afford this. So my why then was accomplished. So what happened next was I lost my mojo. And I know that happens to a lot of people, maybe out in the audience, that happens to all of us. And my business kind of stopped growing at that stage, along with the income. However, I still went to trainings, business presentations, and I looked after my customers, my loyal customers that have been with me from word go. But my recruiting absolutely slowed down until one day, January 2013, surprised and shocked, it all changed, and I'm going to hand you over to Andrew.
Thank you, Angela. So it was January 2013, and I attended a training day. It was at the Motorcycle Museum in Birmingham. And I initially thought, here we go, another year, another training. It was a Sunday afternoon, and my stomach was in knots, thinking about Monday morning and the working week ahead. But I looked around that room, I actually remember it so well. I actually went to the back of the room, and it's elevated stairs at the back, and I sat on the stairs at the back and just looked around the room. And I saw the leaders in forever, and the ones that were working it full time, and I just saw how relaxed and happy they were. And I thought, I bet they don't feel like me. So all I could think about was the 5 o'clock Monday morning drive to start the working week. I felt like some of you may do in the room today, thinking about tomorrow. I just thought, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So Angela and myself spoke on the way home from training and started to put a plan in place for me to leave work in 6 months' time, which was July 2013. My background was in the catering industry. I was a national account manager, which meant long hours, thousands of miles travelling in my company car, and a lot of stress that I was working under. Not only had I decided to decide, but it also gave Angela the spark she needed to rebuild a business. It's been 3 years now since I left the day job. Woo! And I love every minute of our forever business. It doesn't feel like work. I'm very humbled where we are today, and so grateful that Angela said yes to the business 14 years ago. It took me 12 months to replace my salary. While I was in a career, it took me 22 years to get to the income. It's ridiculous. But 12 months to replace my salary. 2 years to almost double my income. My life is unrecognisable now. We get up when we want to. We go to the gym when we want to. We have some fantastic holidays. And we also get to work with our 2 children, Jordan and Britt. Which leads me on to when they decided to join us in the business, I'll hand over to Britt.
Cheers, Dad.
Sorry.
So, at the age of 12, my mum came home with a box of products and said, "This is my new business." My brother and I were told to start using the products, which at first we didn't fully realise how good they were, but we just did as we were told. My mum grew her business with a very unsupported family. Jordan and I had been at the top of that list, but she still persisted. Personally, looking back now, I was very unkind to my mum and never quite understood her positivity she was feeding us as children. I only realised this when I went off to dance school in London to undergo 3 years in musical theatre. Upon graduating, I began in the big wide world of auditioning for my ultimate dance career. after every audition and getting to the last 5 and being told, you just haven't quite made it this time, I was absolutely gutted. But my mum would always be the first person to say, come on, Britt, keep going, you will get your dream job. So with that in mind, I went to my next audition, my 25th audition. Now, most people would have given up by now, but because of my mum's positivity, my mindset was ready. I knew that the next audition was going to be the one, and it was. I landed my first professional job as a dancer for a cruise line company, travelling the world. I was on cloud 9. I loved it. Now, being a type 1 diabetic, and from the age of 16, and not having the best control whilst being away, I decided after 2.5 years and seeing 64 countries, it was about time I came home. Because of my work ethic and never giving up attitude, I decided borrowing off the bank of mum and dad wasn't the answer. So I got a job as a manager of a fitness centre, which I loved at first, but then the long, unsociable hours came. I never once got a thank you for everything I did extra, and I didn't get paid for what I was worth. This was when I came home that day and said to my parents, there has to be more to life than this. My mum's business now became my lifeline. So I joined Forever in March 2014 and went manager within 5 months. Thank you. Fast forward 2.5 years, I'm now a Forever to Drive qualifier, a 100 club, chairman's bonus, and an Eagle manager. The plans for the future are exciting, and the positive mental attitude I was brought up on has made me who I am today. So thank you, Mum. And Dad, sorry.
You're welcome.
The lifestyle we now lead as a family is absolutely unbelievable. I will now pass you on to my brother, Jordan. Thank you.
Thanks, Britt. Hi, everyone. So I've been with Forever now for just over 2.5 years. I joined in March 2014. When I found out my sister was joining the business, I was really quite surprised, actually, at the time. And me being Mr. Competitive thought, if she's joining the business, then I'm definitely joining. So I joined 3 days later. As Britt said, we were surrounded by positivity in our house. We were told from a young age you can do whatever you want if you put your mind to it. And that's kind of the mindset we've had, which we've kind of brought into Forever, which has been amazing. At the age of 18, I went to university and studied sports science and management. I left university with a degree and took a year out travelling, went to Australia and parts of Asia and absolutely loved it. That's where I gained my passion for travelling. I came back into the UK, fell into retail, and then quickly fell into retail management with a high-end fashion brand. I enjoyed my job at the time. I thought I was passionate about it, now knowing I wasn't, but back then I thought I was. I was very successful in the store that I ran in Nottingham, that I worked in within Nottingham, was one of the top performers in the country. I had an appraisal from a senior retail manager at the time, and that's where things changed. So he said to me, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time, that whole 5 years' time plan that everyone talks about? And I said to him, I'm going to be earning a 6-figure income because I believed it in my mind and I know that I would be. He said to me, he nearly fell off his chair and said to me, you won't be earning that in 40 years, never mind 5 years. That was the point where I realised this was not the career for me and this was not what I wanted for myself. I didn't want that 40-year plan working in retail. So like my sister, my Forever journey began, albeit 3 days later. We went to manager the exact same day 5 months later. Even if I do say, even if I do constantly wind her up by saying I went to manager an hour before she did. So we've been coached by our parents, sometimes good, sometimes we have disagreements. But within those 2.5 years, I'm very proud of what I've managed to achieve. So senior manager, Eagle manager, Forever to Drive, and chairman's bonus +1. So going to South Africa was just incredible. And the most important thing, the materialistic things in life are great, the cars, the house and things like that, but it's the lifestyle we now lead as a family, which my mum's going to touch on in a second, that you just can't, it's priceless. Working the business around my day job for them first 5 months was so tough. It's not easy, but what I'll say is now, the lifestyle that I lead, I can't even remember what them 5 months were like now, because it's just so worth it. So I'm now going to pass you back to my mum, who will share what our lifestyle as a family has been like since. So thank you.
So very proud of what the children have achieved in a short space of time. So it's now a family-run business. When we achieved 1,500 CCs for Global Rally back in 2014, and we went to Singapore, it felt absolutely amazing to spend time with other achievers, talk to them, learn from them, etc. It was absolutely fantastic. But also the quality time that we spent with Chris and Alan Goldsborough, our ever devoted upline. However, something was missing on that trip, our team and family. So on returning back to the UK, we put a plan together so that we could qualify for South Africa. You see, South Africa meant an awful lot to us as a family, especially to Andrew and I, because we used to live there when we first got married 32 years ago. And we absolutely loved the place, but we hadn't been back since. So to be able to return with the family would be so exciting. The rally was completely mind-blowing. We thought Singapore was great, however, South Africa was absolutely something else. It was fantastic that we all achieved chairman's bonus, and the team picked up $36,000 as a group in chairman's bonus checks. Andrew and I started 2014 when that spark came back, and we had just one manager at that point. We now have 21 managers in the team, and in 2015, over 900 people, new people, joined our business. Thank you. We're now living in a lovely house, driving great cars. We have fabulous holidays. In fact, we just booked Florida for 3 weeks at the end of the year. We will have had individually each 45 days holiday this year, and that's not including bank holidays and Christmas. We all have time freedom, and we often meet up for lunch as a family just to discuss the business and be together. 2017 is going to be a fab year for us as well, because Jordan is getting married and we have exciting plans for that. And just this last week, Brittany's been able to help her partner, who's a builder, leave work and start up his own company. So every day that passes, we all are so grateful for this opportunity and what it has given to us. Andrew and I have not been the quickest. So if you're out there thinking you haven't been the quickest, or maybe you've lost your mojo, don't be put off, because you can get back on track, just like we have. Just like we have proved. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Thank you all for listening, and enjoy the rest of the day.